Like you said, my name's Derek Smith. I'm Director of Strength and Conditioning, Assistant Athletic Director at Southside High School in Batesville, Arkansas. Been here going on my fourth year, and we're just going to kind of talk about building a strength and conditioning program. As football coaches, as a football coaches clinic, I think we all understand the importance of strength and conditioning and how it can help our program. Uh, but a lot of times I feel like that gets lost in other sports. And as football coaches, that kind of affects us, especially with our multi-sport athletes. So I'm just going to talk about kind of what we do at Southside and how we kind of have a unified strength and conditioning program. And if you have any questions, my presentation is going to be pretty short. So I kind of want to have time for plenty of questions and want to help in any way I can answer those questions. So I'm going to roll my presentation and then we'll get going. All right, like I said, I'm Director of Strength and Conditioning. I work with all sports, male and female, 7th through 12th grade. I'm also Assistant Athletic Director. Uh, a couple of years ago, got certified through the NSCA as a Strength and Conditioning Specialist. And then I was fortunate to be named National High School Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year for Region 2, which is Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. None of that stuff is a reflection of me. It's all a reflection of our athletes and our sport coaches who do a fantastic job and make me look a lot better than I am. I did want to start, it's kind of a cool thing for me. Like I said, I'm out of Arkansas, but I was born in California. I was born in San Diego. Still have family in La Quinta and actually in Southern California in Brawley. My grandpa actually a couple of years ago, I didn't get to go to it because we were coaching during the ceremony, but he got elected to the Imperial Valley Football Coaches Hall of Fame there. He played for Brawley High School, back a long time ago. I never got to meet him. Unfortunately, he passed before I was born. But it's kind of cool, getting to speak at this when my grandpa, played football in Southern California. So basically, how I got started real quick. I had an awesome strength and conditioning coach in high school. Probably the biggest influence in me getting into the field, Leo Krajewski. I'll start with I was a somewhat talented high school player, but I was a little bit of a turd. And I would be a turd in workouts sometimes, and he would hammer me for it. But he would never hold that against me the next day. The next day was a new day, and regardless of how the previous day went, no matter how bad of a turd I was, he never held that against me, and just overall had a tremendous impact on me wanting to get into the field of strength and conditioning. Played college football at Arkansas Tech. We didn't have a strength coach. They have one now who does an awesome job, but we didn't have one. So it was essentially our sport coaches who ran it, and they did the best job they could, but they were off recruiting or doing all these different things that they had to do, to essentially keep their job at the college level. So our strength and conditioning program as a whole, you could say it kind of lacked. But this kind of led me more into the field of, okay, well, I want to research how to train myself. I want to research how to train my teammates in these different things. And actually went to a gym there in Russellville, Arkansas, and Carl Cosson kind of took us under his wing and trained us, and kind of learned a lot about the business side from him. So I appreciate him as well. My first strength and conditioning job was at Blytheville High School in Arkansas. And, nobody in here is probably from Arkansas, but in Arkansas, you hear a lot of bad things about Blytheville. And I want to say that every bad thing I heard about Blytheville was proven wrong during my time there, and by those kids I was fortunate to work with there. It, like I said, y'all aren't from here, but you see it on the news, shootings in Blytheville, robbery in Blytheville, this, that, and the other. But being able to work with those kids that have to come from all these different backgrounds and endure these stereotypes about their city and all these different things, and kind of being able to prove that wrong with a group of kids was something that I'll always look back on my career. And if there's young coaches in here, like, I understand like wanting the wanting to not be complacent and enjoy these certain things, but enjoy the process and enjoy those small wins you have along the way, because those are what you look back on later on, and you're able to really reflect on and wish, man, I wish I'd have been more in the moment during these different things. So that was where I got my first strength and conditioning job, and I've kind of grown it from there. You know, in Arkansas, just as many states, a lot of strength and conditioning is done by the high school football coach, and that's how it was there. But I didn't want to just be appointed strength and conditioning. I wanted to grow in the field, so I went back to school and got a master's and got certified in it. Uh, you know, there's this big argument among strength coaches as, oh, everyone that's teaching strength conditioning in high school should be certified, and that should be the only thing they do. Number one, that's not feasible, and number two, a lot of the best strength coaches are football coaches. So I think the trend's going to be getting coaches that are already at a place certified rather than bringing in someone out of thin air and creating a position for them. So first off, you know, letters behind the back of your name does not make you a good strength coach. There's a lot of crappy strength coaches out there with them, and then there's a lot of great ones without them. So like I said, Blytheville's where I started. And now I'm at Southside, and it's absolutely been fantastic. Coach Kenny Simpson brought me in. I originally worked with just football, and then we've kind of grown to an entire school district program from there. So I'm fortunate to him bringing me in. Now I work with, like I said, every athlete, male and female, 7th through 12th grade. But basically, a lot of times when I talk at clinics, I like to talk about common misconceptions and then what strength and conditioning is and isn't. So we'll roll through this quick and then kind of get into the meat and potatoes of everything here that'll kind of help you grow a program. And number one, anything I talk about tonight from a don't do this perspective or this isn't what you need to do, it's not me speaking from a pedestal. It's me speaking from I've made these exact mistakes, and hopefully now you don't have to make these mistakes. So number one, more is better. When training the high school athlete, and I don't want to just read from the slide here, but it's important to understand anything you do is going to work with a high school athlete just because of where they are development wise and where they are in their growth. But it's important to not bounce from methodology to methodology, because now you're not really sticking to a program. Whatever your program is, if you stick to it, you're consistent, you're going to see improvements in your kids. I'm not a big sports specific training guy. I may struggle here, or this may be kind of my downfall, but I believe in athlete specific training, especially because at the high school level, so many of our kids, where I'm at anyways, we're a smaller school, play multiple sports. Like some of our offensive linemen play football, soccer, basketball, that they may play track. They may do 4 sports in a year. So I don't really need to train them specifically. I do believe in conditioning specific for your sport. And this is one I'm extremely passionate about. For the idea that women need to train differently than men. Our women, high school, follow the exact same program that all our guys follow. So we don't differentiate for them. Obviously, their loads are a little bit different based off their strength, but they're doing the same exact program that our high school football program's doing. And number 4 here, this is one that took me a long time to learn. Forever, I thought strength was the only measure of improvement, and that's how you could tell if you were getting better. Number one, it's awesome. It's awesome to get stronger. It's awesome to see your dudes blow up big lifts. I think it's huge in terms of developing a camaraderie. But there's also a lot of other markers of improvement. You know, is my kid more confident? Is my kid more resilient? Are they less susceptible to injury? Can they move a moderate load faster? There's a lot of different, markers of improvement. And then 5 here, this goes back to my time when I was at Blytheville. What works for me will work for them. So I'm a big believer in, let me let this car pass here. I'm outside on the back porch, and let my dog in real quick so she'll stop barking. Lucy, come on. Get inside. Sorry about that, coaches. But I'm a big believer in not doing something that you haven't done yourself with your kids. And so there for a while, I followed kind of like this high volume squat program, basically 20, 15, 10, 10 reps at anywhere from 60 to 50%. This was years ago. And anyone who's done 20 rep squats knows it's freaking brutal. Uh, but I followed it and I was like, oh, hell, man, this is the best thing on earth. I'm seeing all these different, markers of improvement increasing. This is the greatest thing. I'll pass it on to the kids. But what I didn't consider was I'm going home to a house that has running water. I'm going home and I'm eating freaking 4, 5, 6 meals a day, as to where a lot of these kids were going home to a house without running water or not eating 6 meals a day. And I used to take that personally, like, you're not taking this serious. But in all reality, they didn't have the means to take this serious. And luckily, I was able to learn from this mistake. We had a kid, he fell out. He had to go get tested for rhabdo, and that's basically your downfall as a strength coach if you have a kid come down with that. Fortunately, he didn't have it, but I was able to learn from that mistake. So understand what works for you necessarily may not work for them because you're not in their circumstances. And I think that's important to understand as a coach. Let's see here. Next slide. All right, so what strength and conditioning is not. Sorry, it's not a place to establish toughness through brutality. And like I said, I've made every single one of these mistakes. It's not me speaking from a pedestal of this is what you should do. I go from an approach now of I want my kids to respect me and I want my kids to come in and want to work for me rather than them just being scared of me. That's not to say there's programs that run on the other side of that and do a hell of a job. I'm just kind of throwing out how I do it. It may not necessarily be how you do it, and that's perfectly fine. Because I said so, I think this is huge with today's kids more than ever. I'm our kids' strength coach at the high school, but they can get on freaking YouTube. They can get on TikTok. They can get on Twitter. They can get on whatever. And there's literally millions of trainers out there, thousands of trainers out there that can train them and that can show them what to do. So I better be able to explain what we do and why it's important, and I better be able to back that up with them because there's so many other influences they have on them and their development compared to when we were in high school. I'm not that old. I'm 32, but basically when I was in high school, who influenced us was our high school football coaches, or our coaches, our parents. Maybe someone at church or whatever, and that was relatively it. Our family. And now kids are having influence on them by freaking thousands of different people. And a lot of times that's good. A lot of times that's bad. One size fits all approach at the high school level, I think, especially more than anywhere, you have to be able to modify on the fly. You may have this workout plan, this rep scheme, this exercise selection. And then I think back to the issue we had, a kid went snowboarding, which in Arkansas is not, I thought he was making it up, but he went snowboarding at some place that made fake snow and came back with a freaking broken collarbone. And he thought he couldn't train for 4 weeks, but no, wrong. I can modify your workout and you can hammer lower body that's not going to put stress on your collarbone for 4 weeks. So we'll do what we can do and we'll work around it. And personally, I love like a West Side barbell, freaking chalk dust in the air, heavy metal music freaking blaring, dudes screaming, shirtless. Personally, for me, when I'm training, I love that. But if I want to grow an all sports training approach, I got to get away from that with regards to how we train our athletes. Now, if it's just football in the room, we may roll with that, and that's fine. But if I want to get volleyball in there, if I want to get softball, or if I want to get baseball, or if I want to get basketball, a lot of times as football coaches, we bash basketball for not wanting to train. A lot of times we're our own worst enemy with how we kind of portray training. Like I said, I love that. I try to make an open environment, and I'll talk about that here later in the presentation. And what strength and conditioning is. See, I'm on time here. It's a place to build unrelenting self-confidence. If I want our athletes, male, female, whatever, to leave the most self-confident people on the planet, and I fully believe there's a difference in arrogance and confidence. A lot of times by the unmotivated, it's viewed as being arrogant, but I'd take a flip side to that. I want our kids to be the most confident. If they're in a freaking job interview 10 years from now, I want them to know that if there's another person in the waiting room, that other, and this may sound wrong, but that I want them to know that other person better find a way to freaking put food on the table for their family, because that job's theirs and they've done the work to earn it. And I fully believe you can develop that confidence in the weight room, especially, high school football guys, and I love them. A lot of them are the most confident, outward confident people on the planet, and you got to almost kind of foster that inward confidence with them, as to where with girls a lot of times they may have a little bit of inward confidence, but their outward confidence in many cases lacks, just simply because they're told they have to conform to a certain way. So I want our kids to leave the most self-confident people on the planet, not arrogant, because they back it up. uh, and it's a place to slow cook. This is especially true, a lot, especially on Twitter, and I'm going to get into this here later. But there's a lot of different nuances in different geographic areas. Like, I work with our kids 7th through 12th grade. A lot of coaches don't get their kids till 10th grade. So someone may have done a great job before they got them. Someone may have done a bad job before they got them. So it's especially hard if you're in one of those scenarios. I think all the coaches do a great job, but I'm fortunate I can teach our kids how I want them to do things rather than I have to rely on somebody else to have taught them. And it's a place to teach. I talked about this earlier. A lot of strength coaches think every school should have one. That's simply not going to happen. A lot of the best strength coaches out there are high school football or high school volleyball or high school basketball coaches, simply because it's what you do. You coach. I think where a lot of the bad rep comes from on the strength coach side of things is, okay, we have this sport coach who is freaking awesome, and he can watch a game and he can be in a game and know exactly what to do in this scenario. But then a lot of times in the weight room, he may just write a workout on the board and sit down and draw plays. So like I said, on both sides of it, even on the strength coach side of it, there's these different, arguments for how things should be done. But I think some of the best coaches out there are obviously sport coaches. And it's a place to create competition. Some of the ways we create competition in our weight room or our training sessions, especially, is through using a just jump mat or using our timer, and then through team. And I'm not plugging anybody here, but through Team Builder, I can press these boards out. We just have a computer screen that the kids look at, but if you have TVs and different things like that, you can press these record boards out, and it's instant. So say we have a kid jump 35, well, that's instantly pumped up on the board, and then now we got kids trying to beat his time. So it's a place to create competition. And I think it's one of the best things you can do in the weight room, because kids at some point in their life are going to have to compete for a job or for a partner in life or for all these different things. And then the number one thing that drives me freaking crazy with the kids of today, a lot of people think, oh, kids don't work hard as they used to, and that's completely wrong. Kids now, honestly, in my opinion, may work harder simply because of all the different outside influences they have. But they are, in our case anyways, they're super lackadaisical. A lot of times they can just kind of stroll in. They're super chill, and I guess that I'm super high strung, so sometimes we kind of butt heads there. But it's a place to establish a sense of urgency and commitment. We start at 150 every day, and if you're not at 150, we're freaking hammering you. And I understand, like, there's this argument among strength coaches, don't use exercise as punishment and all this different things. But all I know is when I was in college and I effed up, I had to log roll 1,000 yards at 5 a.m. So when I was out in town and was about to do something stupid after I had to do it before, I thought, well, you know what? I don't want to log roll at 5 a.m., so I'm not going to do this thing that was stupid. And so that kind of goes against the exercise as punishment argument. But I think it's important to kind of hold kids to those standards. And this is important I wanted to talk about this, especially as I talk with coaches from like New York or Massachusetts or on the West Coast. Uh, I've never worked at a school. I've worked at 5 schools in Arkansas or 4 that did not have an athletic period. So this is just my schedule here from 6 to 7 each day. I run an open session. It's open to any athletes, 7th through 12th grade. First period, I have junior high athletics. I know a lot of other places call it middle school, but here that's 8th and 9th grade athletics. So I have them first period. Second period's PE. Third period is 7th grade athletics. Fourth period's PE. Fifth period, I have a teacher prep. Sixth period, I have administrator prep. And then seventh period, I have senior high athletics. This is a little different this year because of COVID, but this has generally been my schedule. I'm with males Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm with our females Tuesday, Thursday. You know, in a perfect world, I'd like to be with everybody the equal amount of time, but there's one of me, and that's essentially what we do. Let me see if there's any questions. Like I said, coaches, if you have any questions, I want this presentation to be more me helping than me talking about anything I've ever done, please. Let me go here. All right, so I'm going to kind of talk about where we're at and where we're at now and how we got there. I'll try to wrap this up pretty quick, guys. I ran a little longer than I thought. But before I even get started, I work with the best sport coaches and the best athletes in terms of being bought in and working their butts off anywhere. I'm biased, but I back our coaches till the walls cave in. But before I got here, football was essentially the only sport that strength trained upon my hire. Again, we had awesome sport coaches. Strength training just wasn't their main thing. Injuries across the board through all sports were through the roof. For example, like I said, nothing I've done. Awesome coaches have came in since then. We had a girl, and she tore both ACLs different years, and then tore another one again. So our injuries were through the roof across the board in all sports, and this is where we were at. But this is where we're at now, and like I said, all the credit goes to people besides me. All athletes, 7th through 12th grade, male and female, are in a unified strength and conditioning program. Volleyball, we have not had one soft tissue injury or one injury overall. A lot of that's luck. You know, I can't prevent a kid breaking a freaking bone, but I can help reduce the risk of a kid turning an ankle or tearing an ACL. But in the time I've been here, we have not had one game missed due to a soft tissue injury or due to an injury at all. Boys basketball this season, we didn't have any game missed due to injury. Football, we've had 2 season-ending injuries in 3 years, but both have been non-soft tissue. They've been broken bones, things like that. We did have an ACL that was in spring ball. Unfortunately, that young man was able to come back before his senior year. Girls basketball, we had some injury issues this year, but I went back and looked at the data, and any athlete that trained 2 times a week year round did not have a season-ending injury that caused them to miss any games. Again, a lot of this injury talk is luck. I'm a firm believer in injury reduction rather than injury prevention. If you can truly prevent injuries, you're a wizard, and you need to be hired by every pro sports team from every sport. But you can reduce the risk of injuries. Nobody on earth, in my opinion, can fully prevent injuries. And like we talked about, I know this is a football coach's clinic. We understand the importance of strength training. We understand how it helps your program, how it not just helps, your athletic attributes, speed, strength, power, all these different things. But a lot of coaches, I feel, in certain scenarios don't understand the importance of it. And so I think we can kind of help grow our school's strength and conditioning program. And we're not the only school that does this. There's guys in this listening right now that have a better program than we do. But I just kind of want to share this, from our perspective, how it's important. And the keys to establishing an all sports program. I think the best thing you can do as a district, and the best thing you can do, because a lot of times it's the football coach that gets us started, the best thing you can do is bring someone in and turn this duty over to them, because simply So, for example, Coach Simpson brought me in. He brought me in for just football, but he was willing to let me let go of some of my football duties in order to grow this for the program. And part of that is he had interest in other avenues. He has a daughter in volleyball. He has a daughter in soccer. He has a son in basketball. So that kind of helped him be willing to let me go work with all these other sports. But as a district, hire or appoint someone to work with all sports. And that's especially important because I get coaches, we have our best interest at heart. So if I'm the head basketball coach, I may not want to send my kids to the head football coach because I'm worried about, oh, he may take these kids at our level. We're all sharing kids, so it essentially really don't matter. But I understand those different arguments, from the administrative side of different things that I've been being able to be involved in, that I may not want to send my kids to the head football coach, or if I'm the head football coach, I may not want to send my kids to the head basketball coach. So bring someone in to do that, or appoint someone to do that. The first step you have to do is win over parents. And 3-4 years ago in the summer training program, I sat in an empty weight room that was booked for a girls' session many times, many times. But what I started doing was what we called movement for moms. And I would do a workout for moms at 6 o'clock, 2 days a week. And at first it was free. All they had to do was bring a box of granola bars for our football kids. And through that, they saw that, okay, this isn't just a West Side barbell deadlift party. This guy actually knows different movements, and he's not a sleeveless meathead, although I love that stuff. But he doesn't fit this mold that I thought strength training was about. And so that was one of the greatest things for growing our girls program, so to speak, was kind of breaking that mold and building relationships with the moms. And then next thing I know, those empty sessions turned into, hey, my mom came to Movement for Moms and said I should come up here and train with you. And then from that, our program's grown. Dumbbells for Dads, kind of the same concept, just trying to win parents over. You can also do it for like a fundraiser, different things like that. Then you got to win over your athletes. And I think this is especially easy as a young coach. You just got to be able to responsibly relate to them. And that's huge in terms of getting their buy-in. Win over administration. I think if you're wanting to start an all sports program, you need to be clear with your administration from the get-go about what your goals are. So when I was hired here, yes, I was hired as football only strength and conditioning, but my 3-year plan is everybody's on the same unified training program, and that helps them get on the same program and understand your goals, and they can kind of help back you in those goals. And then win over coaches. This is the biggest one in terms of getting your kids bought into training that you can have by far. I think back 3 years ago, and 99% of this was on me not conveying what I wanted to do with the athletes to the coach. Fantastic coach. He's still with us. Freaking awesome guy. But I think back 3 years ago, our softball coach, so at our school, volleyball, basketball, football, both basketballs, boys and girls, football, those are the only sports that essentially have the athletic training periods during the day. But 90% of those athletes play these other sports. But our softball coach had an issue with his girls lifting even the day before a game or the day of a game, especially. This was, like I said, 3 years ago. So he would have his girls just sit down during the period and not train. And to be honest, when that was happening, I was just pissed off. I was like, oh, this guy, he doesn't know what he's doing, this, that, and the other. But in all honesty, I had never reached out to him. I just assumed, hey, he should know I know what I'm doing, and he should let his kids come train with me. But once you went out, now, okay, so that's where we were at 3 years ago. Now I have softball girls that want to train freaking 5 days a week or more, and I have to tell them, hey, let's back off a little bit. So I think as a coach, you have to build these relationships with coaches well before you ever want their kids, to do what you say, because the kids are going to do with what their sport coach says. And I've talked a little bit about this. The main thing you want to do if you want to get all these sports going is create an open environment. Like I said, that's open to everybody. Like, You see here in the top left corner is my boy Gabe. He hadn't been with us because of COVID, and he's a high risk type kid. He hadn't been with us this year, but he'll be back soon. He trains. He comes in and trains when the football team trains. No different, simply because he has spina bifida. He freaking trains with us, and we modify what we can do with him. Here we got some junior high girls. Here we got our football dudes flexing with a bunch of junior high girls. Here we got another middle school group. But you want to create an open environment. And I understand, like, I've coached football. I've been an offensive line coach. I understand football has these different concepts that come with it. And you got to have this brotherhood, and you got to have it's good to have a little bit of that meathead. But when it's an open session, we try to make it open. When it's football, I got into it with Michael Boyle, one of the best strength coaches in the world, super professional. He's big on kids being professional, wearing sleeves, this, that, and the other. I think when football, sometimes you got to freaking let the juices flow if it's just a football session. And I don't care if our kids are ripping their damn shirts off, banging metal, slinging chalk. But if it's an open session, I try to rein that in because I don't want to make the other kids uncomfortable. And this is another one of the biggest things you can do. Make it somewhere that the kids want to be. So early in my career, I came in with the approach of, I'm going to break these kids down. I'm going to show them how far they got to go, how mentally weak they are. And in all honesty, 30% of the kids liked it. 70% of the kids freaking hated me and hated training. And I probably ruined their outlook on training, honestly, for a long time. So now I've kind of flip-flopped on this, and make it somewhere they want to be, and you will be blown away with the amount of work that you can get out of your kids. Like, we got football kids. Yeah, we lift during the period at 150. Well, I got kids coming in at 6 to get 2. And then they want to hang out after 150 to get another one. I don't let them generally get 3, but I'll give them something a little extra they can do. Same with volleyball. Our girls are awesome. But if you make it somewhere they want to be, I got kids that come, Coach, I had a bad day at practice. Coach was on my ass, this, that, and the other. Can I come get a lift in? You bet. So the weight room for a lot of our kids has kind of became their safe space. And this is not an approach of, let's sit in our freaking beanbag chairs and sing Kumbaya every day, this, that, and the other. Let's look at rainbows. No, but if you show the kids what they can do, then you'll be able to get a lot more out of them than the approach of, I'm going to break you down and show you everything you can't do and what you're not able to do. And I want to get a little bit of X's and O's in this. Like I said, develop your system. So this is our system. It not necessarily the best. This is what we do, though. And I think as a coach, you have to develop your system, what suits your kids and what suits your facility. Basically, every training day, which with our guys, mandatory is 3 days a week, girls 2 days a week. 80% of our kids get far more than that. But we're going to do one push, one pull, one hinge, one dynamic movement like a clean pull, a med ball throw, weighted carry, and then either a bilateral or a unilateral squat. And that, I think, as a coach, that helps you stick to a regimen. So Twitter's awesome. It's also bad. But I see this freaking awesome movement on Twitter. Where does it fit into my program? Okay, well, in all reality, this is a dynamic movement, or this is a pull. So I can put this into the pull section, and then now I have it categorized, and I can take something out, or I can put something in. So develop your system. Like I said, this is ours. There's far better ones out there, just kind of what we do. Periodization, we're kind of like a modified conjugate. Basically, if you've watched a lot of Louis Simmons stuff, everything was linear for so long, and you build up. You got your hypertrophy phase, you got your strength phase, you got your power phase, and those are fine. But then when it comes into all reality to competing, football competition lasts a long time compared to where weightlifting meets one event and you're done. So you got to be able to maintain all these different attributes over a season rather than peaking for just one event. So we have one power or speed emphasis day, one strength emphasis day, and then one general physical preparation or volume day. In season, the volume day goes at the beginning. In off season, it goes on a Friday. That way they can recover over the weekend. And I want to talk about this briefly because I've talked with this about all our coaches. They talk a lot of times, sport coaches think, okay, well, in season, I just want to lift light for more reps. That way we don't get sore. Well, break it down. I should have put this on the slide, but I'll do it real quick on my phone. First, I'm terrible at math, but bear with me here. All right, so say we got athlete A and he back squats 315. All right. Well, 65% of 315 is 204 pounds. All right. So say we want to lift light and not go heavy. Let's do 3 sets of 8 at 65%. All right. So that's 24 reps. 24 times 204. That's 4,896 pounds of volume. All right. On the flip side of that, let's go 4 sets of 2. Let's go 5 sets of 2 at 80%. All right. So he lifts 315, 80% is 252. All right. Let's lift that for 10 total reps. I've lifted 80% for 5 sets of 2, and I've done half the amount of volume. So I talk a lot with our coaches about that of don't be afraid of your kids lifting heavy in season because it's the volume that gets them. It's not the intensity. So we're going to lift heavy in season. We're just going to cut a lot of the volume out because you get that from your practice. I talk a lot about this with colleges, specifically with what they teach their kids. The biggest thing you need to learn when you get into the high school sector or any sector really is how your weight room flows. And this is something that's not taught in any class. It's just something you got to figure the hell out on the fly. And it goes back to developing your system. We got 3 areas. We basically have 12 racks. We got a black mat area, which is just horse stall mats. And then over here, we got a turf area. And it's not the good turf. It's turf that was pulled off a field filled with beads. And I'm a psychopath about our weight room being clean. And it freaks me out every day. And I'm trying to get it replaced. But that's what we have. So racks, black mats, or rubber flooring, and turf. And that's how we're categorized. A, B, C. And our kids start on A, a group does, a group starts on B, and a group starts on C. And then we just rotate through that. And that makes our weight room efficient. It gets them 6 lifts. Sometimes we do 8, and we can get that done in generally 40 to 45 minutes plus our outside work. Another important thing at the high school level is fundraising. I am fortunate. We're a charter school, or we transitioned to a charter school, so we're able to tap into a lot of these different areas and avenues. We have one of the best grant writers, Novella Humphrey, that I've ever seen anywhere at any level. We have grants that I've never even heard of. Like all our teachers at the junior high, I work with 7th through 12th, but I'm based out of the junior high. We all got iPads, MacBooks, and Apple Watches based off this grant she was able to get us. And that's happened in a bunch of different avenues at our district. But one way you can fund your strength and conditioning programs through these grants. Also, we get a medical grant. So I can't order barbells, racks, and weights with this grant, but I can order kettlebells because our injured kids can use them. I can order pit sharks because our injured kids can use them. I can order bands. I can order all these different things that kids can use for rehab. And so I can order that through the medical grant. So find these different grants or find someone that's good at writing these, because I sure wouldn't be. I'm glad we have one. PE budget. A lot of this goes to our enhanced PE grant, but you can fund a lot of the stuff in your weight room through your PE budget. But I want to say this, it doesn't need to be something that you buy with your PE money and the PE kids never get to use it, just because they need access to it. And I get the logistics of it, and some of them don't want to be there. I get that, but they need to at least have the option to use the things that you buy with the PE budget. And then one thing we've done this year that we're about to phase in, is creating a strength and conditioning budget from all sports. So basically what we're going to do is any sport that trains with me, they donate X amount of dollars for strength and conditioning. And a lot of this goes for maintenance, like our benches need resurfaced. I'm going to do that myself because I found out how expensive it was to outsource it. We need some new bars in the basketball weight room. We need this here. And our basketball coach was for it because, hey, I can give $1,000 to the strength and conditioning budget, and now I'll have 12 new bars when I would have had to buy them myself, and it would have cost $4,000 or $5,000. So their coaches are for it. Kind of create a budget of all the sports that work with you. And then one of the things, this is nothing I had anything to do with, I've just been fortunate to reap the benefits of it, is before me, Coach Simpson and Coach Reardon, they got all the people in town to donate for a Jumbotron. And it's freaking huge. We're a 4A school. We're not super big, and we're one of the only schools that have one. And when I got hired, I heard the price tag on it, and I was like, that is the dumbest purchase anybody could ever make. And I was pissed that we spent that X amount of dollars on it. But because I thought, hell, for that price, we could have built the most badass weight room on earth. But in all reality, that has allowed me to tap into different things because businesses advertise on that, and then I'm able to tap into those avenues. So, for example, Business X, they're kind of geared towards technology. They advertise on there, but they have kind of stipulated that the money they donated has to be spent on technology. Okay. So I've been fortunate enough to tap into that. We use it to pay for our huddle. We use it to pay for all these different things, but at times there's some money left over. I was able to buy a Kabuki Strength Transformer bar with that money because it's a technological advancement in strength and conditioning. I was able to buy Team Builder through that because it's technological advancement. And then same scenario, there's Business X earmarked theirs. They want it for facilities improvement. I was able to buy bumper plates because that's improving our facility. So just all these different avenues to fundraise, I think it's important to try to get into. I'm about to wrap up here, guys. First off, this is one of the things I want to finish with. There's nothing wrong with creating more money for yourself. And I'm not talking about highlighting only you. You can highlight yourself within your program. I think it's important to do, especially now you have to highlight your program as a coach. But ways you can do this is ask for extra contract days. I know a lot of states you get your teaching salary and you get your coaching stipend, and that's it. But here and in several other states in the South, you actually get extra contract days. So regular teachers are on a 190-day contract. Most coaches are on a 200 to 210-day contract. So what that means is you get 10 more days of pay or 20 more days of pay. But once you've got those, or wherever you're at there, you can kind of leverage that and ask for more contract days in addition to that. And then you can ask for strength and conditioning stipends. You can ask for assistant sport coach stipends for all the sports you work with, either in lieu of the strength and conditioning stipend or on top of the strength and conditioning stipend. And this last one, you got to understand how to use it. Play the game, even if you know you're not going somewhere. I know this is extremely important in terms of if you want to get more money. For example, a couple of years ago, I was fortunate to get an awesome job offer that if I was single and didn't have a family to uproot and move, I would have took it in a freaking heartbeat. But I presented this to my administration. In the back of my head, I knew my wife was going to tell me, hell no, we're not taking that job. But my administration didn't know that. And I went to them and I was like, hey, school X offered this amount. I know it's a lot bigger school. I know they have funds that we don't. But how close can we get to this? And I was actually extremely surprised with how close they can get to that. And I was also, it was nice to see that they were willing to work with me to keep me with that regard. So play the game, but that's not something you need to do every year because eventually it'll piss your administration off. But be willing to play the game a little bit once you're kind of established and once you've shown you can help your school. And that's all I got, guys. He said I ran a little over. I didn't want to run that long. I'm clicking on this box here. I'm not seeing any questions. But if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. And reach out to me anytime. I want to help grow strength and conditioning in any way possible that I can. So I appreciate the opportunity. I think coaches as a whole, especially football coaches, do a fantastic job. In Arkansas, we're blessed with different avenues that you may not have, and you're blessed with different avenues that we may not have here in Arkansas. But it's nice to connect with coaches from all over and kind of talk shop and help. Appreciate it. Like I said, any questions, feel free to reach out.